think we're recording. Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of the PPBDL YouTube channel. I'm your host, Eddie Willis, owner of Team Eddie Moneyball. With me tonight on this special edition are the Rank It, Draft It, Bracket boys. We've got Josh Buys, Team Commish, and then Derek Shepard, who is owner of Team Beast. How's it going, boys?
Good. How are you doing, Ryan? Today, I guess.
I appreciate you joining me. It's 6 p.m. Hawaiian time, which is a lot later than Derek and Josh. So appreciate it. Let's just get right into it. The meat and potatoes of the portion of this video is going to be a mock draft of the first round. But before that, I just wanted to touch up on a couple things. So first, I'll turn it over to Josh to give us a update or a proposed kind of timeline for the Vegas drafts and what you see, how it's going to play out when we get there.
Yeah, sure. So I think we're pretty locked in on who's going to be there. There's going to be 8 of us. 8 out of the 12 are going to be in Vegas. Ryan, Viral Load, Christensen is a very, very small percentage tentative maybe to be there for one of the nights, but most likely it's just going to be all 8 of us that'll be there. And the plan right now is to do Saturday night, have the big veteran auction. So Saturday night, which would be the 20th, I believe, probably somewhere around 6-7 p.m. Arizona time, and which would be well, I guess we'll be in Las Vegas, which is Pacific. So 6-7 Pacific time, somewhere around there is when we'll do the Saturday night veteran auction, the big boy, that night. Tentatively, and what I'd like to do as well is Friday night have our amateur draft. So same time, somewhere around there, 6 or 7 p.m. Pacific, have our amateur draft, our 4-round draft now, with some time in between the picks. I think we went over that in the winter meetings. We're gonna have about 4 minutes in between each pick to allow for trades and whatnot, but it'll all be on Fantrax anyway. So obviously the people that can't be there, the 4 of you that won't be able to be in Vegas with us, so it's all gonna be still automated on Fantrax. But that's the plan right now. Is again, I'm hoping to do Friday night and Saturday night. If nothing else, if we just can't kind of get schedules or timing to work, we'll push the amateur draft a little earlier, maybe a week or so earlier, and get that knocked out. But otherwise, 100% we're doing the veteran auction on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially if we can all be in at least the same city, maybe not the same rooms. I don't know what the limit is, but I think who was it that was had reserved the suite in their hotel that we could possibly.
Yeah, that'll be me and Dodger.
We've got that's Team Beast. So. We should all have enough room. And as far as limits go, we're fine to be in all 8 of us in the room, the suite, spending those few hours in there with the draft. So really, again, and for those of you going to Vegas, the limit from when I was there last, which was October, it was you can't really have any more than 6 in your eating dinner party. So if we all go out to dinner together, we'll have to space up tables, but otherwise there shouldn't be any restrictions.
Yeah, I was thinking bandwidth, but you with the commissioner rights, you can at least overchange some picks if something was to happen.
Yeah, we'll make it work. We'll figure out what we got to figure out.
Well, I'm very excited that I will be a participant in the Vegas portion of it. I'm glad the approval for my leave went through, so I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, we're excited too, Eddie. We're excited. I know you've been one of the biggest proponents of trying to do a Vegas or at least a destination draft, so we're happy to have you be there.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to a couple, and we discussed this on, I think it would be the Lost Tapes YouTube PPDL version, episode 5, where I screwed up the recording of the audio. We did our winter meetings over Zoom, and it was phenomenal, awesome. I think it's going to be a staple going forward. But the 2 votes that I wanted to briefly touch on were the amateur to rookie options, and then the 4th round. And we don't have to go into all of the proposals for the options, but essentially we decided on an option where when you move your amateur up to the majors, the contract goes to a Rook 1 and a Rook 2, and then that becomes you can option them up and down unlimitless, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And then what happens with 3 and 4? Is it one option or do they just up?
3 and 4, they're up permanently, so they cannot be moved down. One of the proposals that was very similar, that came from Ryan Christensen, was to allow 3 and 4 to start the year in the minors, but once they're up, they're up. The proposal that ended up being voted on and passed was to just, once they're up, or once they reach 3, they have to be up. Once they're at obviously 4 as well, they have to be up. Though that's what we majority ended up voting with. So yeah, 1 and 2, they can go up and down freely as you kind of figure out what their kind of MLB status is, what their performance is going to be like. But 3 and 4, they got to be up.
All right, and then the second one was adding a 4th round, which I don't know what the total was for approved or yes on that, but I was a big proponent of adding a 4th round, and I also voted on expanding the rosters because I'm all about the prospects. So I'll go to Derek on this one. Do you think that the change in our options structure, as well as a 4th round, is going to have a significant impact on the amateur drafts coming up, or is it just an added feature that we're going to have to figure out?
So I don't think the 4th round would probably play too much of an impact on it. I do think hopefully that 4th round kind of gets us started towards an expanded roster, something I've also been kind of pushing for. I feel like one of the bigger proponents of it as well. As far as I think the options thing will mean people will keep guys down as long as they can before starting their clock, because you do want that flexibility for year 1 and year 2, where maybe guys are almost running into the Rule 5 before they're actually brought up. But I don't know how much that would make an impact on draft strategy, or if it's just you're still going to look for the guys the best player available, or whatever your current strategy already is.
Yeah, Josh, do you see it any other way, or some teams going to try and utilize? The way I see it breaking down is maybe pitching becomes a little bit more prominent in the earlier rounds of the draft.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Derek said. I don't think we're going to see a huge change in strategy. I do think we are already, based off of last year, going to see that maybe increase in pitching prospects being taken. As Eddie, you've said that's your strategy this whole entire offseason, just because, allowing to have that flexibility. Now, Derek, I'm glad you brought up the Rule 5 draft, because I think people have tended to forget, I'm never going to promote guys. Now that we've changed, our system is what it is, but we still have the Rule 5 draft in place. You can still only hold a guy for so long before you have to start his rookie clock down in the minors. So that's still a thing. We skipped it this year for 2021 because of COVID last year. We weren't exactly sure who was going to get promoted, who was not going to get playing time, rookie eligible, all that stuff. But going forward in 2022, we're still going to have the Rule 5 draft. So I just want to touch on that. And then second, I think if anything, what I personally am going to maybe be shying away from is those 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that come straight out of high school. Just because, one, you do have to deal with the Rule 5 draft again. There's a lot of times, that some of these young guys are super highly touted, but they're just not there for the first 3 or 4 years anyways. And then you're up against the Rule 5 clock, and you're forced to promote them maybe if they have their rookie eligibility. Maybe they struggled as a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old in the majors, whatever it might have been. So I think I might be shying away a little bit from that. And maybe we see that across the board too, with, again, guys wanting to hold them down longer, yet when they're forced to promote them, they want to be ready. I think it's no secret that having a 22-year-old that has maybe already had a year or two in the majors is going to maybe perform better than a 18 or 19-year-old that you're forced to promote because he has his 130 at bats, but you can't hold him down any longer. So that's maybe the only change I might see myself, and maybe we'll see that as well across the board. Now, with that being said, I have no idea who I'm taking in any of these amateur drafts this year or next year yet. So, we'll see how that might change.
Yeah, the non-expanded, or so the expanded roster proposal that was not approved or didn't pass, that might play a big factor with this additional fourth round too. There are several teams that are stockpiling future year draft picks, and if you go the route of Jason Dominguez, who might be 38, he might be 18. He could be sitting down there until that Rule 5 hits. So it'll be interesting to see some of the decisions made in the next 3 or 4 years. Let's shift over to transactions. And I'm so excited for when you and Ryan, Josh, are going to do your first podcast. It's going to be like a 6-hour podcast based on everything that's happened this offseason. So I'm really looking forward to that. As far as the transactions go, I'm just going to touch on the ones that that dealt with draft picks this year being moved. So we'll just stay away from the player for player ones, and we'll just highlight the picks that are going to be swapped this year. So I'm going to try and share my screen. You guys see it or no?
It's coming up for me still. I have it up in front of me here, so
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, you're good now. Yep.
All right. It just, I'm dual monitoring it here, so it just says you're sharing the screen. But as long as you can see the Excel sheet, I'm good with that.
Yep.
All right, so we will go with pretty much just chronologically here. I'd like to welcome Alex to the league. I know we've welcomed him in a couple other videos, but he started off with a bang. We had kind of talked about his transition taking over and what to do with a couple of his veterans, but he saw Trout in that final year of his extension and went for the massive haul of getting Scherzer, Luke Voit, Forrest Whitley, and then the 1-9 back. For my mock draft, he was the wild card. Just we don't know what his tendencies are. I believe he's a Dodgers fan, correct?
Yeah. He's pretty vocally been a Dodgers fan in there.
Okay, so that played a little portion of mine. But yeah, so he really he got a haul for Trout, and he got a couple win now pieces with Scherzer going into his final year of a contract too, and he's got a lot of room to play with. How did you think the trade went down, Derek?
I mean, yeah, I think, like, it's always interesting, when someone comes in on a new team, how they're going to handle it. I think it was smart to get rid of Trout. And, he got a nice haul. Like, if I had that to offer, like I would have, or, had Trout, I probably would have taken, something similar. So it's a good deal.
Yep, and then he, I believe he had the 1-5 to begin with as well. So just getting 2 picks in the first round is always beneficial for a team that's trying to rebuild. We'll go to my trade, which kind of frustrates me a little now. Niska being super active this offseason. He put Josh Bell up, and then I got excited because he's getting out of Pittsburgh and he's moving over to DC. I ended up giving him a second pick, which is the 22nd pick overall. And then I believe after the trade, it was weeks after, we voted for an additional 4th round. So what I thought was not as valuable of a pick became a little bit more valuable. Not very exciting. I'm taking a flyer on Bell, and he gets a 2nd round pick. Let's go to Team Hopper, Hammy, who's pretty much going for broke in this draft. He traded to me. I gave him the 1-4, and then he gave me 2 seconds and a 23 first. I thought it was a good haul until his final trade, and we'll get to that in a couple. But Josh, you dropped out of the first round, and you got Niska's 22 first and Laureano. You gave up Sonny Gray as well in this deal. We can talk about it now. The main reason I wanted both of you on was because I love the Rank It Draft It bracket pod or videos. But you both don't have picks in the first round, and it's more towards the 2nd round. So I'm assuming that was by design or maybe some future previous trades. But Josh, you traded out of the first round, and you had mentioned you're not sure about this year or next year's drafts. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? Where do you think where do you see the minor leagues going right now, and how we're supposed to evaluate these guys?
Yeah, so I haven't been shy this offseason about trying to get out of this draft. I have not loved this class, and I think you and me, Eddie, had a very similar um, kind of arc of the way we valued this class, which was at the beginning we were, and even towards the end of last season and this offseason, we were just disgusted by it, just like, nah, it's either torque or nothing. But we've kind of come around a little bit on it and said, maybe there's some talent here that we can get. But I really think that if you go back and look at all of our amateur drafts previously, you just get, there's always a steal or two in the second round. And I feel confident that I can at least try to, one of my 2 darts that I have, maybe I can get a nice pick in there. And with being able to trade out of the first this year, pick up a first next year, that was really my goal. I again have not been shy that I've really been excited for the 2021 class, which is our 2022 draft. And so now I have 3 firsts in that draft, which I'm really excited to use, and I'm really looking forward to it. To be completely honest, getting Laureano was just a cherry on top. I was negotiating a little bit with Niska on giving up, possibly my first and Sonny Gray for something, with the his first in 2022 being the baseline there, and kind of what else to add to it. And so, we ended up settling on Laureano, which I was ecstatic to get, under 4-year contract, still has 3 years left at a very cheap price. And I'm, hopefully he bounces back. So I just see it as, I think this draft is going to be really hard to evaluate for us to really know who's who, because of the lack of scouting and the lack of minor league season last year. You're always hearing about good things coming out of the alternative sites. You never hear about bad things coming out of the alternative sites. And it's really hard to tell, what's what. So I just wanted to really kind of rid myself of this 2021 auction or amateur draft, and kind of put my pieces in 2022. So that was really more of my thinking. And I had already started to stockpile for next year anyways. And I said, why not? Let's double down.
Yeah, Josh, your team's pretty much complete as is already. I don't see, and you had mentioned it, not a lot of action going on in these drafts coming up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, so you're sitting there, I believe you got the 24th, 28th, and then the 40th with a new fourth round. Pretty similar feelings with it, just trying to, we really can't gauge a lot of what this draft's going to look like yet until we see them play.
No, so mine was actually more pushing all in a year or 2 ago. I had all my heavy offense guys, all in year 4. It was just making moves just to try to push that window right to the edge, as much as I could. Future be damned, and paying for it now. But because I don't, the team's okay. Not great, but definitely could have used a few more higher picks to bolster that farm. But you live and learn. We'll figure it out, and we'll move on. We'll see you next year, see how it works out. So
all right, so I think I'm remembering this correctly, and I'm not trying to pour salt in the wound, but like your pick was the 1-4 pick, and I think it was part of the Charlie Blackmon trade we made like 3 years ago, when you were like,
sounds about right.
when you were going all in on hitting. I love
that was good. That was a good deal in the year.
Yeah.
Like I got to defer his salary. He just killed it the rest of that season. But all hitting doesn't win it championships just yet. So
it was close. I was always a fan of that team where it was just stacked. And then when the extensions were going to kick in, that's when it really became troublesome. All right, so let's move on to Niska's last move. And this one was kind of an interesting one, as I believe Ryan moved up to 1-2, and he gave up his first, which was the 11th pick, and Alcantara. It's a pretty big hit to move up to the second, and we'll get into it in the mocks. But like Josh had said, it's pretty much torque or nothing. I think we'll probably all have the same guy that he's going to pick at second. But I thought it was an interesting move, and I didn't put any trades in the mock draft, but I was trying to figure out, was he trying to trade up to use that 1-2 and some kind of leverage to move up to get torque with the first pick? or not. But I'm really a big fan of what Niska is doing this off season, as far as being active in the trading capacity. And then the last pick is Hammy again. This one was frustrating for me to see, as Allen gave up 1-5 and he ended up getting 2 firsts back in a third, where I thought my first and 2 seconds trade was pretty good for 1-4. Allen topped me on this one, so I just should have pushed a little harder and seen what I could have got. But Derek, what do you think of Hammy pretty much going all in with the first, third, and fourth picks in this draft?
I mean, it's interesting because, it's been said a few times, like with a torque and, question marks afterwards, basically, like, it's kind of an interesting strategy to choose this year to push all in, into the draft. But, if he likes the guys, if they're going to do it, it doesn't hurt to, just maximize your rebuilding window now by, getting as many first round picks as you can. So, like, I don't mind the gamble. Like in the mock here, like I've got a few guys that, I like that, he gets out of this, but, he did give up quite a bit for it. So.
And you pair, I think his timeline's working really well too. When you look at the rest of his farm system of a ton of solid pitching, and then if Carlson or Green can really pop in the outfield, I think he's got like 7 or 8 top 50 prospects right now. 9. And then he's going to have, 3 or 4 more additional ones coming after this draft. Josh, we'll turn to your thoughts for what Niska's doing. He traded up, but he's got the 11th and the 12th pick. Where do you really think he's going to end up going with those picks?
We'll definitely get more specific in the mock draft, I think, in a few minutes. But typically what Niska's done is very much so pick best player available, or I think he's been more heavy on trying to prioritize pitching. So I would not be surprised if he takes a pitcher or 2 at the end of the first round there. As far as what he's been doing this offseason, Niska's, you need to have Ryan Christensen on one of these videos to talk about Niska's team, because I think he secretly is like crushing on Niska's team. We've talked about on the podcast how if you look up and down his roster, he's got a lot of guys that he still has under control for a long time as far as rookie contracts are. They'll be arbitration eligible and then extension eligible and all that. He's done a lot to move into that sort of the timeline or core, like you're saying. So it's starting to end. They're starting to get on their back 9 of that control, but he still has it. And so, he's kind of moved younger after starting out the first maybe year or 2 of this league as kind of a win now mode. He's definitely moved younger. And the last thing I'll say is I hope he continues to be able to stockpile picks and finish at the top half, or maybe the top 1 of next year's draft. And I would love to take that and that 1 next year. So that's my last thought on Niska. But if I could just add really quick to the very first trade we talked about, the big one, between Dodger and Alex. I think, first of all, I'm not a fan of this trade because I'm not happy to have to face Trout and Hader now in my division 4 times a year or whatever it is. But honestly, I think what's crazy about this is that when you see these big blockbuster trades, that's almost always like, this team won or this team gave up way too much. I think this one's pretty fair. I think it's pretty across the board even. The big names are Trout and Scherzer, but Luke Voit had a really good year. Forrest Whitley is getting a lot of buzz right now in preseason. And Josh Hader again is top closer in baseball, subjectively or objectively, how you look at it. So I think it was a really fair even trade.
Yeah, I know all about Luke Voit breaking out as soon as I traded him. All right, let's get to this mock. So what I had asked you guys to do, we're just doing the first round, is essentially we'll have 3 separate mock drafts, and then we'll just go pick by pick. So we'll just start with 1-1, and then we'll just 1 by 1, we'll talk about who we think is going to be, and then we'll go to the second pick, and then we'll just kind of alternate who's going first. So I have just the order is Derek, Josh, and Eddie. I'm pretty sure we're all going with the same person at 1-1. But Derek, I'll let you I'll let you start it out.
Torque, easy choice.
Josh.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, we've known this was coming since last year. You know, it's definitely Torkelson. He's going to be the easy 1-1.
Is it updating what I'm typing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about, right? Like I had said, maybe Ryan tried to move up to 1-2 to persuade Hammy to give up that 1-1, but there's just no haul really realistically when it comes to prospects or these draft picks that's gonna, make up for Torque. So not a lot to say for that. Do you think either of you? Do you think he makes it up to the majors this year?
No, I think they hold him down still for another year because they just I forgot who it was. The Tigers just signed somebody as well to play first base or third base. It was some very Rockies-esque move, and a middling veteran, but they just signed somebody, and I think that kind of signifies that he's going to be down for all of 2021.
Freaking CJ Crone coming in to take any possibility of Hampson playing. All right, let's go to the second pick here, and this is I think it's probably something that at least Josh knows who or thinks Ryan's going to take here. So Josh, you're up with the first one for the second pick.
Yeah, I may or may not have insider knowledge here, but I definitely am going to mock Ha-Sung Kim to Ryan at number 2. I will say the disclaimer there is I don't think he moved up to 2 to then try to move up to 1. I think he moved up to 2 to either use this pick or to always just be able to trade back down and trade back out of it. There's no secret that Zach Veen is very highly coveted by one or more managers in this league. There's some good top pitching prospects, so I could definitely see him, dangling that 1-2 out there to accumulate picks next year or a player or whatnot. So I don't think it's likely that we see a trade, but I'll say it could happen.
Yeah, I'm going Kim as well, just because we had kind of gotten the word early on who he was trying to take. And the reason I was thinking maybe a trade is just because if you look at what Ryan did last year in just the 2020 draft, he went CJ Abrams, Jeter Downs, Garcia. So he's got those, middle of the infield guys kind of locked up. It can't hurt to have more, and especially with Kim being in the majors already. And having the options to move back and forth. I think it's Kim pretty easily here. Derek, who'd you have?
Well, so I didn't have this insider knowledge, and also mostly because I had, almost no picks in this draft, that anytime anyone's mentioned anything, I just tune out. I don't bother checking for a while. There's just, nothing to it. So, so I have no idea who anyone's targeting, nothing like that. But I went with Martin here. Just, seemed like good player, great hit tool. Blue Jays have been doing a good job developing players in their prospects lately. So that's who I went with here.
Yeah, and he's you can see on the far side in the J column, I've got the site averages. So I've got 15 sites right now with their top 100 to 200 prospects, and Austin Martin is the clear cut number 2. So I think that that's the logical choice if it's a prospect that you're actually looking to draft instead of someone that you're shooting for to play right now. All right, so let's go to Hopper's second pick, which is the third pick, and I'll go first on this one. And let me see who I had. I went Max Meyer for this pick for Hopper, and let's see if I can pull it up. Hopper last year, he went Carlson, Baum, JJ Bleday, and then DL Hall. So he's got a ton of hitting already, and I think with all those young arms, he's going to continue to try and hit gold on his pitching side. So yeah, I went with Max Meyer on this one. Derek, who'd you have?
I had Gonzalez here. Kind of just seemed like, I feel like he is probably a quick to the majors guy, and Hammy could use that, just plug him in right away at second base or wherever he's going to be. So I had him there.
All right, to you, Josh.
I had, it really doesn't matter who I had here at 3 or 4, but I think he's taking a pitcher. I just right now have Asa Lacy in there at 4, at 3. But just spoiler for my 4, I have Max Meyer at 4. So again, I don't think it matters. I think he's taking 2 pitchers here because we know how big of a chub he gets for those rookie and prospect pitchers. So that's why I have him going there.
There's a lot of value when it comes to those pitchers, especially if they come up and have that first or second, a couple of good solid starts, or they're crushing it in the minors. So, yep, I don't have a problem with that. It's to Derek for Hopper's third pick, 1-4.
I went with Lynch here. I kind of was doing it as like a little bit of who I would take, more so than like who I think he's taking. And of like the pitchers here, Lacey, Meyer, I like Lynch the best. Just the big lefty, throws hard. That's who I had here. He's kind of my favorite of the guys here as I was doing my research.
All right, and then Josh, you said you had Meyer here, so
I have Max Meyer in there at 4. Like I said, I don't think it matters. I mean, he could go Meyer at 3, Lacey 4, but I think he's going 2 pitchers.
Yep. So I had Lacey here. So yeah, I think we're all on board with because he gets torque at 1-1. Like that's kind of solidifying your offense in this draft already. That's a win. So I think just going pitching here, or taking another top hitter, and he's getting a pitcher at least with one of these 2 picks. So I agree as well. All right, so we're on to Alex, the wild card of this, and Josh, I think you're up here. Where do you see Alex going with his first draft pick?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, we have not really seen Alex's traits or behaviors when it comes to drafting much at all. Because he hasn't been in the league. We haven't seen his amateur picks. So not really sure how he values prospects, what positions or whatnot he looks at. So I honestly went with the best player on the board for me here that you have on, your Excel spreadsheet, which was Austin Martin. I had him going up Martin at 5, which I think could be a major steal, depending on how the other guys work out. But just to go best available. And I will say, I think this could be a trade up possibility for somebody. Again, there's a few teams that aren't in this first round. I know Jared has expressed his interest in trying to get back into the first round. I know he's like Austin Martin. He's like Zach Bean. I could see him possibly trying to trade up to one of these spots. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alex trades out of the first round or out of this pick.
Yeah, he's got the 1-9 pick as well. I went with Austin Martin as well, and we had kind of mentioned it when Derek took that pick at 1-2. He's pretty much the clear cut number 2 in this draft. So I think it's a win if he keeps the pick. Martin's gonna be a solid starting piece for him. So we're moving to Irby with 1-6. Sorry, sorry. What do you got, Derek?
No, so I didn't throw my titty sprinkles projection out there.
My bad.
I had Lacey here. So just kind of best available from the pitching standpoint on my list, or I guess on your list here as well.
Yeah, I think a trend we're going to see, especially with this draft, is maybe because we don't have any pitching stats for these guys, that none of them have busted yet. I'm trying to pull up the history from the last 3 drafts. Where is it here? All right, yep. So 2020 we did 11 hitters and 1 pitcher, and then 2019 was 7 hitters, 5 pitchers, and then 2018 was a bit of a twist because of Ohtani in there, but it was 6 pitchers, 5 hitters, and then Ohtani. So pitchers have started to slowly dwindle, and especially last year. But I think this year we're going to see pitchers at least be even, if not more, in the first round. All right, so now we're on to Irby's pick here. I'm up, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
All right, I got too much going on. I think this is where Zach Veen goes. Like he's fallen far enough, and if Jared doesn't trade up into any of these, at least with Alex at 5, I can't see Veen going much further than here. So I went with Zach Veen. I know Jared's already sending us, YouTube or Instagram videos of him hitting, softball pitches, to the moon. So I think Veen's hype is just going to continue. Who do you have, Derek?
I had Veen as well. My notes here were just trade him to Jared so you can get the big haul before Eddie gets to with the next pick. So
Who'd you have, Josh?
I had Veen as well. I agree, even if he doesn't get traded, or even if Jared doesn't come up and snag him, I think, Irby's fine with stockpiling, talent, even though he's got some young outfielders already and, on his minor squad. I think Veen's a good pick there, a good value at number 6.
Yeah.
But again, I do think he gets traded.
I wonder how many, I bet you Irby could get more just putting it out to the league saying like, hey, who wants Veen to trade with Jared? Good night. Than actually trading with Jared.
Yeah.
All right. So this kind of worked out well because I'll be the last person to say who I'm going to target at this pick. So Derek, who do you think Eddie Moneyball is going to take with the 1-7 pick?
I put Meyer here, which was my next best pitcher. I had him a little lower than you guys. I think he, maybe is going to be more of a reliever at some point with just his makeup and stuff. But yeah, that's what I had.
All right, Josh, who did you have?
So I went with Emerson Hancock, who's the next best pitcher I think I had left on the board. And what I'll say is my caveat is I think Devin goes pitcher at 3 and 4, and I think then you take the next best of those pitchers left. So Devin could take Emerson Hancock any in those pitches, and I think you get Meyer or you get Lace, whatever it might be. But I definitely think you're going to get a pitcher there and go pitcher. Just again, you've been pounding the table for wanting those prospect pitchers and those contracts. And I think Hancock's a good pitcher from what I've heard and what I've listened to or read about. So that's where I think you go with the number 7 pick if you don't trade out of it.
No, I think I'm going to end up with the 7 and the 10. Much to my dismay, as this draft just fell apart with my master plan of having the 3 first-round picks. I am definitely going to take a pitcher at 1-7. If Meyer or Lacey fell, I'd probably take them. But I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert here for my pick. That's who I would target if Gilbert's there at this pick and the other 2 pitchers are gone. I'll take Logan Gilbert here. All right, so on to Bad Specimen, who's an interesting one as well, mainly because he never has draft picks. So with the 1-8, Josh, who do you think Allen is going to take?
Yeah, maybe we need to give Allen a little more shit, or throw him in the Carter boat at least. We always give Carter so much crap about not having any picks and trading him away, but I can't remember any notable picks that Allen's ever made too. So I'm glad you bring that up. But with that being said, how again we don't really have like a behavior trait, or history to go off of. I just went with the next best available on your consensus there for me, which was Nick Gonzalez. I have him taken there. I don't know that he goes either way. I didn't think there was any high Astros prospects for him to reach for, so I just went with Gonzalez.
All right, same playbook. I immediately went to the Houston Astros farm system and saw how garbage it is, and there's nobody high enough that he should take a flyer on. And then I looked, and he's had 1 pick in the last 2 drafts, and it was a pitcher. So I just wrote true wild card. I have no idea. I said the best player on the board is Nick Gonzalez, but for some reason, he just doesn't seem to be getting the same kind of shine as a top 3 hitter in a draft class should be getting. And maybe it's just because of what was he at New Mexico State? He really didn't have a lot of competition. So I went with Trevor Larnach here, and this is just a total flyer. He was one of the higher guys on my board. So it's strictly a flyer pick here for me. I honestly have no idea how Allen's going to go with this pick. So Derek, to you.
Yeah, I had Hancock here. Just picked a pitcher. I kind of had his needs as everything. So
yeah, and maybe that's the trend when it comes to the bottom half of the first round. They don't want to see these guys, the pitchers, falling into the second round values like we saw a couple last year. Um, it's really a toss up there, and maybe he trades the pick. Who knows? So we're going to Alex's second pick in the first round, the 1-9 pick. And I had no idea what to do here. I looked for the Dodgers prospects, and I think it's a bit of a flyer, but maybe he's higher than everyone else. But I went with Josiah Gray, get him a starting pitcher, and then it's on his favorite team. So that's who I went with for his 1-9 pick. Would you go with, Derek?
I had Kim. I just best player available since I had him. Since I didn't get the memo from Ryan, so
yeah. While we have 12 picks in the first round, I think there's only 7 teams picking, and how many of those teams are in win now mode to begin with. So, maybe Ryan doesn't take him, and he could start falling just because who's going to need him at that point. So I think it's a solid pick if Ryan doesn't take him with the 1-2 pick. Josh, who did you have to close out? Alex's.
Yeah, I think this is one of the weirdest drafts, maybe, or first rounds at least, that we've ever had, which is, like you said, there's half the league isn't even taking a pick or making a pick almost in this first round. I don't think we've ever even been close to seeing that. But again, yeah, same thing as I said for 1-5. It's really hard to forecast what, Alex is going to do. I had him taking a pitcher, Logan Gilbert, who I thought was one of the best, or who I thought was the best left. I think he gets in this case, he gets maybe the top behind Torque, the top position player with Austin Martin, and then he gets a pretty solid pitcher in the first round too, Logan Gilbert. So that's just really my thought. But this was probably the hardest pick to make for me, hardest one to mock. So I truly have no idea.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a win with that 1-5 pick, and then really 1-9's kind of whatever he wants to do with it. He could probably trade out. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all of us, or a majority of us, sitting in a room. Does the trade talk really start to heat up? Does someone try and sell it a little longer with a couple more minutes to play with?
Does someone have too much to drink? I mean,
I definitely will.
Eddie's going to leave this draft with no picks in the first round, and he's going to for his first in 2024 or something like that. Yeah.
So I've never seen draft day other than like memes or someone making fun of it, but I'll just assume that's what I'm going to end up doing, just trading a bunch of picks here and there. All right, to me for the 1-10, am I up first for this one?
1, 4. I'm actually up first on this one.
Yeah, I went first. Yeah. Sorry. So, yep, perfect. Derek, to you.
I had Gilbert, so I feel good about that since you wanted him earlier. But I guess dream scenario if he fell here to you. But yeah, nothing to say there. Good pitcher.
Yep. If he's there at 1-7, I'm not going to pass on him. So, but yeah, Josh, to you.
Yeah, again, this is a little bit of insider knowledge, Eddie, that you and I have discussed, but I went with George Kirby at 10, who I thought was a really good pitcher left on the board. And again, we had talked about those Seattle Mariners pitching prospects that I know you like. So I went George Kirby. To me, though, it was a toss-up, Logan Gilbert or George Kirby at 9 and 10. I could have flipped him there for Alex and you.
Yeah, I've mentioned it to a couple of the guys that Seattle's farm system is going to be ridiculous this year, next year, and a couple of years from now. And if they get the pitching on track, that's why when whoever posted the MLB's prediction for World Series like 10 years out, I was surprised that Seattle wasn't on there anywhere, but Baltimore was. All right, so it's going to be hard to pass on Kirby, and I'm probably going to go pitcher. I don't have another pick, I believe, until like the third round. And this is solely because he's type 1 diabetic. So for my mock, I just wanted to highlight Mitchell here for the Brewers. He's an outfielder. He's got like 5-star potential. He's probably going to be drafted in the early second round, but I'll look strongly at taking him here just because I'm not going to have a pick for quite a while. And I would like to get some outfielder in this draft, preferably earlier than later. But yeah, it's probably going to be Gilbert and Kirby or some combination of that if they fall. But I'll say Mitchell here. All right, so we're going to pick 11, and this is Niska with 11 and 12, so he'll close us out. Josh, who did you have Niska taking here?
Yeah, I mentioned Niska taking usually grabs pitching high, or at least it seems like he's grabbed pitching high with his first picks in these drafts. And so I went with Daniel Lynch, who was again, kind of really highly rated pitcher. Derek, I think you mocked him at 2 or 3 already, so that's just kind of how high he's thought of as well. So I went with him taking a pitcher at 11 with Lynch.
Yeah, I went pitcher as well here, and I just said Hancock because I had Hancock a little bit higher, or one spot higher than Lynch. So I agree with pitcher as well for Niska here. Derek, who did you have?
I had Larnack, just kind of best player available, nothing really fancy with it.
I think Josh, you had mentioned this in one of our messages about like how you were looking at Larnack a year or 2 ago, and here he is still sitting there. I think he's going in the first round this year for one of these teams. And then we'll close it out with 112 here. This was a complete flyer, but I think one of the more hyped outfielders coming into this draft is who the Mets took with Pete Crow Armstrong. So that's who I went with for Niska's final pick here. He's probably going to fall into the second round, but I just wanted to highlight an 18-year-old outfielder who's going to be a five-tool stud eventually when he gets up. So Derek, for your final pick, who did you have Niska?
So I also went with a Mets prospect. I just also kind of wanted to throw a catcher in there somewhere, just because I guess that'd be funny. But with the Padres one getting caught with a bunch of weed, the Mets catcher was a next best one. So Alvarez, Mets catching prospect, was who I had here.
All right, Josh, close us out here. Who's Niska taking with his final pick?
Yeah, I only having a couple second round picks, I think mostly in this draft. I chose not to go off the board from what you have here, just in case somebody might fall to me.
Fair
as
enough.
I said, you maybe have some gems in the second round, but no, honestly, and you just brought it up. I'm going to go with Larnack here at 12. I think I swear it was like the 2018 draft. He was showing up on these top prospects lists, and I was thinking about taking him or whatever. And he just I've never made the call. No one else has made the call. He's just seemingly just been there. And so if he makes it through this one, that's going to be astounding to me. I guess I'll say if he makes it to me in the second round, I'll be taking him because he just is seemingly to have a really professional hit tool, kind of like Alex Kirilloff type, in the same twin system there. A lot of good things to say about him. So, he stuck around, and, Derek mentioned him at 11, and yeah, I could have gone with him at 11 there too. Best pitcher or best player available for Niska. So, but yeah, I think Larnack, at least finally, his weight is over. His draft day slides for the last 2 years are over. I think he gets taken this year.
Yeah. Jesus Sanchez for, I don't even know what team he's on now, always ends up as like one of the best available prospects left after our amateur draft. He never gets drafted, but 3 straight years, he's always like one of the top 5 or 10 guys left over. But yeah, I think Larnach is going to be a steal. There's going to be a couple steals here. I had Nick Gonzalez. I don't even have Nick Gonzalez in the first round. So maybe he becomes a better prospect than I'm projecting him to be. But across the board, we pretty much have 5 or 6 starting pitchers, which is going to be a trend in a different direction than last year's draft. And I think there will be some value in the second round. And then the fourth round, who knows what's going to happen. It could be MLB guys right now or some flyers, 17-year-old, J2 or whatever they're calling that, international prospects now. But let's close it out here. I appreciate you guys coming on. Derek, do you have any closing comments before we take off?
No, I mean, this was fun. I will say, make sure to edit your credit card information not showing up.
Is it showing?
Because we could see your screen. We could see your screen when you filled that out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just want to throw that as a heads up. And I mean, this was fun. Like, I had a good time.
Thank you for
looking at a lot of players that I won't ever, own. So
Thank you for letting me know that. I had no idea it was doing that. Cool. Josh, you got anything?
Yeah, no, I was going to say shout out to Eddie for, giving a behind the scenes look at what makes this YouTube channel go there. But yeah, definitely make sure you edit that. And no, Derek, I think you're selling yourself short there. Eddie, I believe Eddie is already on the record saying he's trading 7 and 10 if he gets that alcohol in
That's
him.
true.
So
I guess I could.
You're going to be there. You're going to be the
it
host,
is in my room.
essentially.
I'll just start feeding him beers, just
exactly. Just
hey,
keep
that one
passing
looks
it.
half empty. Here's another one. Finish it.
Exactly.
After
I think there's opportunity there for you.
After 1-7, the gloves are off here. So 1-10 is probably someone else's.
Yeah, no, I just want to say I'm definitely looking forward to Vegas for the guys that are going to be able to be there. And I hope, maybe in these next few years, we can hopefully all of us end up meeting up to do something like this in the future. But, yeah, I'm just super excited about, draft season getting started. We'll have our RFA draft next Sunday, the 21st. Then we'll get, the amateur draft and the, like I said, auction going. So really looking forward to its go time soon, with the season starting in a couple months.
All right. I appreciate it, boys. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thanks, Eddie.